Hello, welcome back. Our live show, Sheffield Live TV, Thursday evening. It usually means James Gregg, unless he's stuck on the snake, as you were last week, and didn't make it at all. Rob Staton of BBC Radio Sheffield, and Chris Morgan, the former Sheffield United captain, former Barnsley player, former Sheffield United caretaker manager, former Port Vale with Michael Brown for a spell, weren't you there? Yeah. Another ex-Blades hero. But there's no such thing as an easy ride early in a management career these days, probably not that there ever was. Any job that you get, you're going to be right up against it in terms of finances. You're scrapping at the wrong end of the table, and that was Port Vale, wasn't it? The experience you had, and you had a similar one in that respect at Chesterfield too, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, particularly the Port Vale one.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was a huge, this time last year, you know, a huge turnaround in players. It was the busiest summer I've ever known. You know, I think it was 18 players out and 16 in, and it was an incredible turnaround of players. And you know, they gave Michael the job. You know, Michael, very well organised, got a lot of real good contacts in the game, and you know, just unfortunate that he weren't given time. You know, another.
That's the story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's staggering really that people allow a manager to have the time, to have the access to bring new players in, and then don't give it time for that to work. You know, for 16 players to come into a football club in one summer is, like I say, is massive. You know, and that takes time. You know, and I think Michael, like me, is honest, and he has said, yeah, the results weren't where we wanted them to be, but the performances weren't bad performances. You know, and
do you now think, oh, that's it for my coaching and management career, because you're now working with an agency, or do you think that one day you might actually be tempted back into it?
I'm one of them, Alan. I don't think you can never say never, can you? At this moment in time, I'm thoroughly enjoying my work. I'm enjoying what I'm doing for Stella. It's an all different lifestyle as well. You know, I must say that the life-work balance, you're certainly not as tight as what you are when you're in football. I basically work from home. I fill my own diary in. It involves obviously watching an hell of a lot of football, so it keeps me involved in the game. It's a game that obviously I love. I've always been involved in, and but I'm enjoying my work. So at this moment in time, I'm not tempted. I want to do this, and I want to make a good job of this.
Yeah, Rob, the uncertainty of management, the time frame gets shorter and shorter. I mentioned earlier that Chris and I were contributing to a Barnsley documentary about 97, 98 earlier today, and what struck me was you look back and you think, oh, what an instant success Danny Wilson was as a manager. No, it was his third full season, I think, in charge when Barnsley got promotion to the Premier League. That opportunity might no longer exist for a manager.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to come in and you've got to hit the ground running, haven't you? You're not going to get, in the past you would see a manager come in, and even fans would be, at the end of the year, if they would probably look at, okay, that's 1 year, if it hasn't gone according to plan, let's give him another season. But after 2 or 3 years, you'd start to judge a manager. Whereas now, I mean, we do the phone in, and we'll have people ringing in, 10 games into a manager's start, he's the wrong man for the job, he's got to go. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I think Atletico Madrid, when they had Jesus Gil in charge, had 3 managers in a season. We all said how ridiculous it was. Yeah, whereas some have 3 or 4 a season. Yeah.
It's become all over the country. What do you think about Allardyce then? Because obviously Allardyce is gone this week. To Everton fans, it wasn't really a surprise, was it?
And Moyes has gone.
Yeah, correct. But then, Allardyce, he came in, and they were 13th, and then they finished 8th, and they're all wanted about.
Yeah, well,
what do you think of that?
Well, I suppose it's 2 ways of looking at it, because I think he moved them up the table, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. They absolutely hated the style, and I think there wasn't really that connection there between manager and fans. But I'm sure that Sam will enjoy that £6 million he's got, or whatever he's taking with him now.
You can't feel sorry. You can't feel too sorry, can you?
Yeah, but he'd rather be in work, And from a manager's point of view, we talk about managers going in and not getting results and getting the sack, and you also talk about managers going in and getting results and getting the sack. So it's absolutely crazy. And I go back to the conversation earlier on. I think sometimes supporters have got to be really careful what they wish for, because if you look, they finished 8th, Burnley 7th, who've had an an unbelievable season, have done great, and then you've got all the big hitters. You know, your Man City's, Man United's, Arsenal's, Tottenham's, Liverpool's, Chelsea's. You know, and so Everton have finished 8th, and that, looking from the outside, that's not good enough.
They're kind of second of all the rest, aren't they? You know what I mean? Out of the top kind of 6.
It was the same for Allardyce at West Ham. You know, the fans wanted him out there, but they consistently finished in the top half, didn't they, in the Prem?
And then there's Claude Puel at Southampton, who got sacked, but they were finished 7th or something like that, and that wasn't good enough. Talking about managers coming in and having to make an impact in a short time, Jos Luhukay at Sheffield Wednesday had a very mixed sort of time, didn't he? You know, there was a good start, a terrible middle period, and a good finish to the season.
Yeah, real extremes.
Did you ever fear at one stage, and he presumably is in charge next season? I don't suppose that has to be stated.
I think so. I mean, it was I remember interviewing Stuart Gray after they re-signed Kieran Lee, and then a week later he'd gone. So you never quite know. But yeah, I think it seems to be that way. There was some. I mean, the first game he had was the Sheffield derby. So what a game to have first up, and they got a decent point there despite being down to 10 men. They seemed to be ticking along. Then they had the Millwall game where they didn't start a striker on the pitch and were horrible. They went down to Bristol City and were terrible there. The fans were starting to turn a little bit, but then suddenly, just as you're wondering where the next win's going to come from for Sheffield Wednesday, they managed to put a few wins together, inspired by people like Ati Nuhiu, and then obviously the return of Fernando Forestieri, and they finished quite strongly. It's what I would say though is, what's the real Sheffield Wednesday under Jos Luhukay? You know, is it the one that finished the season? Obviously, everybody hopes that's the case, so they can start next season well.
Although that was more representative, he got more players. He got
the players back. There are 1 or 2 though that seem to get injured a lot. So if the same thing happens next season, then what you're going to find out from Wednesday there. But the optimistic side is that they finished well. They can continue that next season. But I think it's a real wait and see, and it's going to be a bit of a mystery how Wednesday play next year.
Right. We'll come to James in a minute. I did promise. Well, we can't show it. I wanted to show it. You'll know, I'm sure plenty of you have seen, I think it was a 67-second, that's all it was, rant from Neil Warnock while manager of Sheffield United at half-time of a game against Wolves back in 2004. If you haven't seen it, after the programme, do check it out. It's a minute of your life you wouldn't want to miss. There's a gentleman sitting to my left here who probably would have wanted to miss it at the time, but there were so many, one word was used so often in this. I think it was something like 40 times in 67 seconds, which is some sort of a record, that even our bleep machine failed to, you know, we couldn't use it before the watershed anyway, because we might have got 39 of them, and the 40th might have slipped through. So we'll leave it to your imagination as to now. And you and Jags, Phil Jagielka, were the 2 prime targets of this rant. You in particular, a goal had been conceded. Yeah. Okay. Scored by Joleon Lescott for Wolves. Yeah.
It was.
And you were rightly panned for it. No, I
was very wrongly panned for it, and it probably took me to the programme.
You drew me a diagram earlier today.
I did, and that is the best way to do it, by diagram. There was something out. They had a free kick. I was marking Joleon Lescott. He went and stood right out of the way, more or less next to the free kick taker. The ball's come in the box. We've all, you know, probably about 6 bodies have all gone to contest this ball. We've all gone up. The ball drops on the edge of the box, and obviously, lucky me, I'm supposed to be marking him, but obviously I've stayed in the box to try and defend the free kick.
You've done the right thing.
I've done the right thing, thinking I had, but Joleon Lescott runs round to the edge of the box and volleys the ball straight in the net. And I knew as soon as the ball hit the net, I knew the gaffer's going to come from here. And it was full time, not half time.
Oh, it was
full time, yeah. And it was late on in the game. I think we ended up drawing. I think we were winning 3-2. That ended up being 3-3 from memory. And I knew as soon as it hit the net that I was in for it after the game.
Well, this was a documentary, so the cameras were in there. Neil had sanctioned this. He's not unknown for him to play to the gallery, I think, sometimes on the touchline. Was there a real element of that there, or was that just pure anger?
No, that was him. That was pure anger.
And that was typical of him. That could be typical of him.
Yeah, when he lost his rag, and he was like that.
And you did as well, not surprisingly, because you threw something in frustration.
It was a Lucozade bottle that went skimming across the dressing room, and I think I can't remember whether it was Alan Quinn at the other end. I think it bounced off the floor and nearly hit Quinny at the other side. But yeah, I knew that I was right, because I knew that I was trying to do the right thing. Because I knew if I'd have gone and stood out of the way and stood with Julian, and the ball had gone in our box and it got headed in the net, it would have been, why aren't you in the middle? You're my centre half. Yeah. That's your job to head the ball out of the box.
You couldn't win.
But yeah. So.
But do you think a good row, when you backwards and forwards like that, sometimes is needed? Just gets it out of the system, in the dressing room. If there's been an incident like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah. Obviously, it weren't a disrespect thing from me at all. It was just, I was getting frustrated because I knew I'd done the right thing. Jags was trying to explain, and I think you can even hear Stuart McCall in the background, and Stuart's like, Gaffer, Bob's is right. And I think it was, shut up, Macca. So he kept coming. But the good thing when we did have instances like that in the dressing room, Neil was one of them. You get back in on Monday morning or Wednesday morning, whenever the game's been, and nothing ever rumbled on.
No, in fact, you were telling me he made a point of apologising to you, didn't he?
He did. I think when he looked back and he'd realised actually what had happened, I think he knew I'd tried to do the right thing. So I don't think he actually said sorry. It was in Neil's way that obviously I'm still right, Mogs, but
I might have been a bit harsh.
Yeah, you were a little bit right.
Tell us about the secret, if you can, of this man's success. As we know, 8th promotion now with Cardiff City, which is a record and just phenomenal. And he shows no signs of slowing down. He's nearly 7. Mind you, he only works a 2-day week. But anyway, that's also one of the secrets of his success. Yeah. Just tell us about this guy. And for you...
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd got £1 for every time I've been asked this question, over the years, but particularly of late, and particularly after the promotion of Cardiff. I think what Neil is, first and foremost, is an excellent man manager. For me, he knows, like that instance, he knows when to put a bomb under the dressing room, and he knows when to calm everything down. And I think his recruitment in regards to the players he brings into the club, the type of players he brings in, he knows what he wants. He puts a massive amount of trust in his players. I think he wants the players to take charge. He wants the players to go out and, express themselves, but also organise the game. He's not a manager that wants to tell players, you must do this when you've got the ball, you must do that, make this decision. He's very much of, listen, I brought you to the club. You're a good player, aren't you, son? If you're a good player, go and show me. Go and show me why you're a good player. And he also, he's always had good staff as well. And I was really pleased that, obviously Blackie and
Jones,
and Jeppo, Carl Sarant, another, ex-Sheffield United, Eddie Littlejohn, another, So and I think Neil's cute like that. His staff, his players. He surrounds himself with good people. But obviously he's got the Midas touch.
He certainly has. No sign of retirement.
No.
I'll never believe he's going to retire.
No, he'll probably do another 3 or 4 jobs before then. Yeah. But he's a magician, isn't he? And when he was at Rotherham United, that's the only opportunity I've sort of seen one of Neil's teams when I've been working here. Yeah. The job that he did there. I'll never forget the game where Derby were 3-0 up against Rotherham at the New York Stadium. And then they scored 3 times with about 8 minutes to go. And it's just... I'll never forget that game. And it kind of just typified his teams. And he was the same when he was at Sheffield United. United could be 1-0 down going into stoppage time, and you'd still fancy United to win 2-1 because that's just the character that his teams have.
Yeah, marvellous. Real congratulations to him. If he's watching this show, I think he does occasionally. I forget the bit about him working a 2-day week, but he does really. He's got it all structured and organised, hasn't he, really?
In a way, that's cute from him. Because sometimes, I think a manager can be on the grass too much. And I think when Neil's there and Neil's voice needs to be heard, then you've not heard it all week. It's it comes alive. It comes alive on game day. Them's the days that he loves.
Presses the right buttons on the right people at the right time. Martin Allen is a subject that we'll come to. New Chesterfield manager after James Gregg.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's got that sort of quiet time of year where there's not a great deal going on. But Sheffield ladies, FC ladies that is, they returned from Watford last night with maximum points and a 5-0 victory. Ellie Gilliatt scoring a hat-trick as well from left back. And for the men as well, more on this in a couple of weeks with a guest that Alan's pre-recorded a show with today. No secrets here, we're not even going to pretend it's live or anything. But the men, they've actually got a new backroom team and management team, if you like, as well. For the youth team, they've got Russ Eagle in charge. Kirk Jackson is going to be the first team coach. And then they've got Gavin Smith as well, who's now the first team manager at Sheffield FC. So exciting times ahead.
Richard Timms, we recorded the show today with Richard Timms and the former Lord Mayor of Sheffield. She only stood down, I think, yesterday. Yeah. Councillor Anne Murphy is a big sports fan, and talking about getting Sheffield to shout more about being the home of football.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's to come in a couple of weeks.
Home of football as well might continue as well, because Sheffield United ladies, they're sort of eyeing up a Women's Super League berth as well when that's all rejigged this summer. They take on Leicester ladies this Sunday away from home. 2-2 draw last week as well. They're now third in the table there. Sheffield Eagles Rugby League, well, they're away at London Broncos this Sunday. They got smashed last week by the London Broncos as well. But of course, the following weekend is the big summer bash in Blackpool in front of the Sky cameras as well. So a good performance this weekend will give them a bit of confidence going into that one. Nick Matthew, friend of the show, of course, newly retired as well. Squash legend. He's taken up an advisory role with England squash. He's going to try and bring new talent through as well. And just to finish off, I'm going to nick one of Rob's tweets from yesterday, because you got a great stat about the...
You're going to pay him?
Absolutely blooming not, no. It was about the World Cup squad. Over a quarter of the World Cup squad is from South Yorkshire.
Yeah, from round here. There's been a lot of people debating, actually, where Gary Cahill and Harry Maguire were born, but as I keep pointing out, there's no hospital in Dronfield, so
they're born in South Yorkshire.
Harry Maguire liked the tweet as well, so he can't be that bothered about it.
Did he really? Oh, that's a massive endorsement.
I like that.
Congratulations also to Neil Redfern, by the way, with Doncaster Bells. They won the title of Women's Super League 2.
They're into Women's Super League 1.
Your ex-teammate in charge of Doncaster Bells. Do you know, with Barnsley at the moment looking for another manager following that disastrous appointment of Jose Moraes, which was so... Anybody could have seen that you needed somebody who knew about the Championship to bring in there. They could do worse than go for your old teammate, Neil Redfern, surely.
I think, to be honest...
too sensible, maybe.
Locally, I think his name... He's thrown in every time the job's come up. You know, certainly every time I've looked at it and looked who's in contention for it. You know, Redders' name is always in there, and you know, he knows the club. He knows what the supporters want. You know, obviously, you know, he gave the supporters what they want enough. You know, when he was a player there. So you know, I'd see that as a very sensible option for Barnsley Football Club. You know, but. You know, Neil might be enjoying his football with the Doncaster Bells. You know, and you know, we talk about longevity in football. He might have more longevity doing that job, and he might sort of think, well, you know, I'm in a job that I'm enjoying, and I'm enjoying going to work. You know, shall I put my head on a chopping block at Oakwell, or you know, it depends. It depends. You know where he is.
Satisfaction too, and he can work as a pundit. Barnsley. Any ideas of where they're going?
Well, I think they are going to go for a British-based manager this time.
Hooray.
And they have got the players in the squad. You know, Kiefer Moore banged in, I think, 13 goals in half a season for Rotherham in League One, and they've got other players that, you know, dropping down a level. And I have to say, I don't think League One is going to be particularly frightening next year. So I think that Barnsley have an opportunity to do what Rotherham have done and try and bounce back straight away. But they do need somebody, I think, who's got that knowledge of the teams they're going to come up against and the players they're going to come up against. You know, I think it'd be amazing if they could get Paul Hurst from Shrewsbury, but that might depend on whether they win it at Wembley in 10 days' time.
He might have bigger fish to fry, I would have thought. But Martin Allen, finally. Now, that's an eye-catching appointment. Not a surprise. Dave Allen acts on instinct. The owner of Chesterfield has now come out fighting, taking on more of a lead role after stepping back. I mean, obviously, you and Danny were among several management teams in fairly quick succession there. Martin Allen, come across him? Any thoughts?
Well, obviously, they've gone for a manager that's you know, tried and tested really in the conference. You know, that's where they are. You know, like Rob just said there about Barnsley with regards to getting a manager that knows the league, that knows the players, knows the style, and obviously, you know, that's what they've wanted in Martin. They've got that, you know, flamboyant character, as we all know, and You know, he just, again, you know, he'll be judged. He'll be judged on the players that leave the club, the players that come in, and
it's not going to be boring, is it, will it, Robert? I think it'll either be a spectacular success or spectacular failure.
I mean, I think that as a club, they need to get a good start, though. I mean, I don't want to compare them to some of the teams that have gone down there. Really struggled. You know, Tranmere have had to kick and scratch their way out of that league. York City went down again.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing you want to do, I mean, it's a huge rebuild as well, because they're going to lose, presumably, Christian Dennis. You know, they're going to have to reshape that team, so it's a huge job. So I hope he's got a few decent possible free signings maybe that he can bring in to build that team.
Some from Barnet?
I think
you
so.
see a bit of Barnet,
yeah, I mean, I do. Yeah, because my girlfriend's a big Barnet fan, so I do go to the Hive quite a bit, actually, and I've seen him. I was there when they got promoted from the National League, and he plays quite a simple style of football. They had John Akindi, big guy up front. They have wingers running on, and that's it. You know, there's not that much to it. I noticed that he actually did the retained list for Barnet before he left, and John Akindi was transfer listed. So
was he?
Make of that what you will.
Right.
There's a couple of other people. You know, he's a bit like, you know, all managers. They have that thing where they bring players with them to clubs. I think, you know, you probably see a few who are very capable. So.
You would think. And interesting about the start, he was asked several times, I think, as he's unveiling, what style of football. He just said winning football. Simple as that.
That's what they need. They're not going to play like Man City in the National League, are they? They just need to get out of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a tough league. It's a tough league with a lot of clubs that have got a big budget. We found that at Port Vale last year. We were talking to players, and we were talking to players about certain contracts, and they were getting offered bigger contracts in the conference.
In the conference,
the National League, sorry. So it's certainly an easy league to get out of.
Yeah. Well, he took the Eastleigh job, Martin Allen, because they had a big budget. Took a few players with him from Barnet, and you know, gone, wasn't he, straight away, because he didn't make that instant impact. So he might have been thinking, well, I don't want to do that again. But obviously, he might have a nice budget, but then also might have assurances about having a bit of time. I don't know. Who knows?
I wouldn't have thought he's got time assurances. I mean, I think it's a 3-year contract, but that only means a contract's only as good as a severance clause, Rob, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
You could call it 10 years.
It could be a 10. Well, look, Alan Pardew had a 10-year contract at Newcastle, didn't he? I mean, it's just about the severance, as you say there,
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting times, and I think they're mindful of the struggles that ex-league clubs have had to get out of there, and it's almost impossible to get out there quickly. So I think they've lobbed a keg of dynamite into it to try and, you know, get
what makes it difficult is you've only got one automatic spot. I'm not sure if that's changing. It's going to change, I think, soon in the next couple of years. But it's only one automatic spot in the rest of the playoffs. So you've got to sit. You've got to be the best team in the league.
I know hindsight's a great thing with something like this, but they've gone for an experienced manager now. You know, would have going for an experienced manager.
Kept them in.
Last time, have actually kept them in the Football League.
A number of times I've had that conversation. Either of the two, they needed a Martin Allen or a Ronnie Moore.
Yeah.
Either of those two, and I'm convinced they'd still be in League One now if they'd have gone for that rather than trying to go long term. I'm really sorry for Jack Lester even now. I know he's been branded a failure by the owner, but hang on a minute. You know, I think some responsibility has to be taken by the board as well as by the managers, quite frankly. Although it's great that Dave Allen's come out fighting. He's the one that's picking up the tab and putting the money in.
Yeah, Jack's a good guy. You know, I know Jack really well, and you know, he was doing a fantastic job at Forest. You know, they got a lot of young players through at Forest. You know, if you look at your Bren Brereton's, Matty Cash's, you know, except you know the players that are in the team there, and you know, Jack took the chance, and you know, it's
big gamble
in a way, it's
and the club.
Harsh, because I think again, you know, could he have turned it around?
Maybe. Chris, got to stop you. 10 seconds left. Time's gone. Chris, thanks very much. Rob Staton, James Gregg, thank you. Repeat it 11. It's on my YouTube channel later if you missed. Thanks for your company. See you next week. Bye-bye.